I gave him everything, my family, my career. He gave me betrayal. This is how I caught him, walked away, and rebuilt my life from the ruins. When you love someone hard enough, you start rewriting reality for them. I used to think that was just what love looked like: sacrifice, patience, holding your breath so someone else could exhale. When I met him, I was 24, full of plans, standing on the edge of a career I actually gave a damn about. He was soft-spoken, easy to be around, and nothing like the ambitious chaos of the guys I used to date. My parents didn't like him, said he wasn't serious, said he lacked drive. My sister said he gave her weird vibes, like he was always watching people instead of really being there. But I was stubborn, and I had already made up my mind. I thought they just didn't understand the kind of love I wanted. Something simple, something stable. So I chose him. Every time someone raised an eyebrow, I doubled down. Defended him like my future depended on it. We moved in together after 6 months. Rented a little duplex on the quiet side of town. Bought used furniture. Cooked pasta too often. It felt warm. It felt enough. Then came the promotion offer. It was big, project lead, bigger pay, and a move to a city I'd always dreamed of living in. When I told him, I remember the way he looked at me. Not angry. Just disappointed. He said it would change everything. That he loved our town. That he couldn't see himself anywhere else. That he didn't want to be left behind. I told him I'd think about it, but in my heart, I already knew the answer. I turned it down. Smiled when I did it. Lied to myself that it didn't matter. That love was more important than some job. My boss looked at me like I was insane. My mom cried when I told her. And I told myself I was just choosing a different kind of success. The kind you build with someone, not in a corner office. We got a dog. We started talking about maybe buying a house next year. I imagined us old, sitting on the porch, drinking bad wine and laughing at dumb jokes. I gave him everything he asked for. My time. My trust. My future. And I believed he was giving me the same. It started small. A locked phone. A new password. A few late nights he didn't explain all that well. I asked once, just casually, like it was nothing, why he suddenly had so many texts from random numbers. He rolled his eyes and said, "Spam." I swear, I don't know why it's gotten so bad lately. I nodded. I wanted to believe him. I always wanted to believe him. But something in my gut twisted that night, and it didn't untwist for weeks. I tried to shake it off. We all get paranoid sometimes, right? We watch too many shows, read too many posts. I told myself I was imagining things. Until I checked his Instagram. Not his messages, I couldn't get in. Just his profile. The posts were the same, a mix of sunsets and selfies and our dog. But the likes. That's what got me. One woman. Always there. Every post. Every time. Not just the new ones. Old ones too, digging months back, liking pictures from weekends I remembered him saying he was working late. Her page was public. Pretty. Harmless. Blonde. Soft-looking. Basic. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something about her account made my heart race. I clicked through her stories. Nothing obvious. No captions like, "my man," or, "taken," but then, 3 days later, I saw it. She posted a story, 2 hands, laced together in a movie theater. The kind of soft lighting that makes skin glow. The caption was something cringe like, "finally some peace." But it wasn't the lighting that made my knees go weak. It was the scar. A faint line across the knuckle. I knew that scar. I helped bandage that scar when he sliced his hand fixing the goddamn cabinet in our kitchen. I stared at that photo for minutes. Not just because of the hand. But because of the geotag. I stared at that photo for less than 10 seconds before I grabbed my keys. I didn't think. I just moved. I drove like the road was the only thing left tethering me to reality. Parked. Sat on a bench by the exit. No plan. No breath. Just shaking hands around a cooling coffee cup and a pounding in my ears I couldn't silence. I didn't wait long. Maybe 20 minutes. Then the doors opened. People spilled out. And then, him. Laughing. Holding her hand. Smiling like someone who'd never broken a promise in his life. I didn't remember getting up. I just found myself walking. Straight toward them. He saw me too late. The smile didn't even have time to fall off his face. I stopped right in front of him. Looked him dead in the eyes. And slapped him hard across the face. Not out of rage. Out of clarity. His mouth opened. She froze. I didn't wait for the explanation. I turned. Walked to my car. And drove home. I packed that night. No shouting. No questions. Just clothes, toothbrush, charger. I left the keys on the table and drove until I couldn't cry anymore. And that was how it ended, with silence. It didn't feel like heartbreak. Not the kind they show in movies, with screaming into pillows and slow walks in the rain. It felt more like something slipped out of my chest and left a hollow space behind. Like I had been running with a backpack full of bricks and suddenly someone ripped it off, and I was still standing, but not sure how. I crashed at a friend's for the first few days. Ate crackers for dinner, cried in the shower, stared at the ceiling fan like it was trying to tell me something. He called. Of course he did. Left voicemails that started with "please" and ended with "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." I didn't answer. Not once. I couldn't. Because if I heard his voice, I wasn't sure what part of me would speak back, the broken one or the one that already knew better. I moved into a tiny sublet in the city I was supposed to transfer to a year ago. No view. No air conditioning. Just a mattress on the floor and a lamp that flickered every time I plugged it in. I took a remote job that barely covered rent, started eating noodles and eggs and whatever was on sale. It was quiet. Too quiet sometimes. But it was mine. My space. My air. My mess. And slowly, without asking permission, the pain started turning into something else. Not strength, not yet, but resolve. I signed up for a night course in marketing. Put my name on 3 new resumes. Cut my hair. Bought a second-hand coffee table that wobbled when I leaned on it. The little things made me feel human again. Meanwhile, he kept trying. Emails. Flowers at my old job. Even showed up once outside my friend's place, pretending it was a coincidence. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He looked pathetic in the way only a liar caught in daylight could look. Said he missed me. Said he was figuring things out. I said nothing. Just walked away. Because the truth is, I could have screamed. I could have listed every sacrifice, every night I stayed up waiting for him, every dream I shelved so he wouldn't feel small. But I didn't need to. He knew. That was his punishment. He didn't lose me because he cheated. He lost me because I saw him clearly, and I didn't look away. I thought closure would come in some grand moment, like a courtroom, or a confrontation, or one final sentence that wrapped it all up. But it didn't. It came quietly. One morning I realized I hadn't thought about him in 3 days. Not his face, not his voice, not even the scar on his hand that used to make me freeze. I was just living. I had a routine again. Work, walk, coffee shop on the corner where the barista knew my name and spelled it right. I had a favorite bench in the park. A playlist I made just for my commute. I wasn't healed, not all the way, but I wasn't bleeding anymore either. And that counted for something. I still had the emails. I never deleted them. But I never reread them either. Sometimes I'd catch his name in my inbox and just smile at how small it looked. One lowercase word from a man who used to fill entire rooms. I didn't hate him. I just didn't care anymore. One night, months later, I was walking home with groceries when I ran into someone from the course I'd taken. We talked for a minute, nothing flirty, nothing planned. Just real. Present. It was the first time in forever that I didn't feel like I had to explain who I used to be. He didn't ask about my past. I didn't offer. And it was easy. God, it was easy. I went home that night and cried, not because I was sad, but because I remembered who I used to be. The girl who gave everything to someone who never planned to give it back. She deserved better. And I was finally becoming the woman who could give it to her. I never answered his last message. He said something about still hoping, still loving. I left it unread. Because I wasn't angry. I wasn't afraid. I just knew better. I know now what real love looks like, and it never comes in silence, behind your back, with lipstick on its collar and lies between its teeth. Real love shows up. Stays. Stands in front of you even when things get ugly. And when it doesn't, you leave. You pack your heart and your pride, and you walk. Even if your hands shake. Even if your voice cracks. You leave. And then you rebuild. Brick by brick. Smile by smile. Until one day you wake up and realize you're not missing anything. Because you never lost yourself, you were just waiting to come home. He always told me that a real man provides. That if I just let him lead, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. At first, it felt like love. The kind that wraps around you and tells you to rest. I was working in logistics back then, 3rd year in the same company, 1 foot already in a management position. I loved what I did. I loved being good at it. But he'd say things like, "I hate how tired you always are," or "I just want to take care of you, babe." And eventually, I believed him. I thought that maybe he was right. Maybe that was the adult thing to do, build a home, be there for each other, simplify. So I quit. I walked away from a career I'd built from scratch, handed in my badge, hugged my coworkers, and stepped into this version of life where my world shrank down to one man, 4 walls, and future plans. At first, it was warm. We had slow mornings, late breakfasts, grocery trips that felt like dates. I made the house feel alive. We laughed a lot. Talked about names for our someday baby. He told me we were building something real. When I got pregnant, he cried. He said it was perfect. That we were ready. And for a while, it felt like we were. But life with a newborn is not a movie. I was tired in a way I didn't know existed. Nights blurred into mornings. My body didn't feel like mine. And somewhere in all of that, he started slipping away. He was working late more often. Weekends were suddenly full of errands I wasn't invited to. He'd leave his phone face down, and when I asked what was going on, he'd say I was just overwhelmed. "It's the hormones," he said once, and kissed my forehead like that made it better. I told myself he was just stressed, just adjusting, just being responsible. But deep down, I missed him. Not just the man, but the partner I thought I'd chosen. I was home all day with a baby, no paycheck, no adult conversations, no validation. And I still tried to be understanding. I gave him space, I didn't ask too many questions. Because I believed that's what good wives did. I believed in us. I believed he was still mine. It started with a message from my best friend. "Hey, don't freak out," she wrote. "But I think I just saw your husband at the mall, with someone." She attached a photo. Grainy, taken from a distance. But it was him. I'd know the shape of his shoulders anywhere. And the woman next to him, she was holding his hand. Just fingers laced, nothing scandalous. But something in the way he was leaning into her, the way his body relaxed, it told me more than I wanted to know. That night, I didn't say anything. He came home late, said he had to meet a supplier across town. I nodded, smiled, asked if he wanted dinner. He said no, showered, and went to bed. I sat in the kitchen until 2 a.m. just staring at my phone. The next day, I started watching. Not obsessively. Just, attentively. I noticed the way he always kept his phone face down. How he turned the screen away even when he was just checking the time. How his location stopped updating in our shared app. I stopped ignoring it. I started checking things when he wasn't paying attention. One afternoon, while he was in the shower, I opened his messages. I wish I could say I was shocked. But I wasn't. It was all there. The pet names. The photos. The conversations that didn't leave anything to the imagination. And the worst part? He didn't even bother deleting them. Like he either thought I'd never look, or he didn't care if I did. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my teeth. I took screenshots. Sent them to myself. Then I put his phone back exactly where it was. That night, I waited until the baby was asleep. I looked him in the eye and said, "I know." He blinked. Know what? I pulled out my phone. About her. About the others. Don't lie. He stared at me for a moment. Then laughed. Laughed. "You're losing it," he said. "That photo's fake. You're being dramatic again. This is your anxiety talking." He looked at me like I was a child who just spilled juice on the carpet. Like I was the one making a mess. And in that moment, I felt something inside me shut off. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was just done. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just went quiet. Because I knew he wasn't trying to win me back. He was trying to make me doubt what I already knew. And I wasn't going to give him that. The next morning, I packed a suitcase for me and my daughter, called my dad, and left. He didn't call right away. Not the first day, or the second. He probably thought I'd cool off and come crawling back once I calmed down. But I didn't. I stayed at my dad's house, in the guest room with the creaky floor and the floral curtains from 1992. My daughter slept better there than she had in months. Maybe she could feel it too, that something heavy had lifted. A week later, I got the first email. Polite, measured, like he was applying for a job. "I think we should talk about arrangements. I'd like to see her." I ignored it. 2 days later, another, "You can't keep her from me. That's not fair." Then it got official. A letter from a lawyer. He was filing for partial custody. He wanted weekends. Holidays. A say in decisions. The same man who made me feel crazy for accusing him, who didn't fight when I left, who laughed in my face, now wanted to be a father of the year. My hands shook when I read the paperwork. Not from fear. From fury. This wasn't about love. This was about image. Control. The kind of man who doesn't want to lose, even when he already has. I hired my own lawyer. Quiet, efficient, sharp as a blade. We gathered everything. Messages. Photos. His texts. My resignation letter from 2 years ago, where I wrote I was stepping away from work to care for the household. A printed calendar of pediatrician appointments he never attended. We went to court. I wore the same black dress I wore to my mother's funeral. Because something was dying that day too. He showed up in a tailored suit, freshly shaved, with that same practiced face he used on dinner guests. He looked me in the eyes like he still had power. He didn't. I sat steady, told the truth, answered every question. When his lawyer tried to imply I was emotionally reactive, mine calmly laid out the timeline. The affair. The lies. The screenshots. The months I spent alone raising our child while he was somewhere else, tangled up in someone else's sheets. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Full custody. Scheduled supervised visits. Mandatory child support. The ruling was calm, almost anticlimactic. But inside, I could feel the shift. Like a door closing with a final click. He didn't look at me on his way out of the courtroom. And I didn't look back. The thing about healing is that it doesn't show up with a banner or a parade. It shows up in silence, in little choices. It's brushing your teeth without crying. It's grocery shopping and realizing you don't have to buy his brand of coffee anymore. It's waking up at 7 a.m. not because you're scared, but because you want to. After the court, I found a small apartment near my dad's place. Nothing fancy, 2 rooms, old tiles, but it had sunlight in the mornings and quiet at night. My daughter had a room with stars on the ceiling and shelves full of secondhand books. I found remote work doing digital support for a logistics firm, which felt like some weird full-circle joke from the universe. My pay was modest, but I made every dollar count. My dad and I would take turns picking up my daughter from preschool. He'd bring her a banana every day like it was a sacred ritual, and she'd run into his arms like he was her superhero. Sometimes I'd just sit on the curb, coffee in hand, watching them and thinking, this is what family is supposed to look like. I never answered my ex's messages after the court. His scheduled visits happened once a month. He tried being charming, then cold, then dramatic. I didn't engage. I stayed polite. Detached. For the first time, I saw him without the blur of love, and there was nothing worth missing. A year passed. Slowly. Quietly. One day, I realized I hadn't thought about the betrayal in weeks. Not because I'd forgotten, I just stopped bleeding. The scar was there, sure. But it didn't hurt to touch anymore. And then, one ordinary Thursday, a coworker I'd only ever spoken to in chat sent me a meme about 5 p.m. meetings. I laughed. He followed up with a joke. I replied. That was it. Nothing romantic. Just normal. And it hit me, I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was still here. Still soft. Still open. But now I had boundaries. Now I had peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from revenge or being proven right, it comes from surviving. From choosing yourself every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. My daughter sleeps soundly now. I don't have to check the door 5 times before bed. I don't flinch when my phone rings. And when I look in the mirror, I don't see someone who was cheated on. I see someone who walked through fire and came out steady. I see a woman who lost everything she thought she needed, and found herself instead. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.